Let me just so I'm looking at the KuCoin chart right now, and we have a very definite higher time frame support and resistance line. This is the weekly time frame. You can clearly see that there was a reaction here after it broke. Here there was a reaction to hold it as resistance. So you had support, had resistance. As the price went up, it came back to hold it as support until it lost it, and then it became resistance again. And then more recently, the price was testing it as resistance, and then last week we had a nice break, clean break of this higher time frame SR flip. So the last time we had a break to the upside was exactly a year ago. It's quite amazing how these things happen. So 1 year ago in February, we had a similar break. Now that weekly candle was crazy extended. It went all the way up to 14 cents. This weekly candle we've closed at 5.2 cents thereabouts. Yeah, so it's a very different kind of break. And also the lead up to this break was a run from the all-time low. So you had the all-time low was put on and then put in, and then the price rallied until you finally had a break, and then it sold off. Yeah, I think we're experiencing something very different now, because even though in a sense we have come from an all-time low, we haven't just rallied. We've gone up, pulled back, gone up, pulled back, and then we had a lot of volume put into this weekly candle, which cleared a lot of higher liquidity. We never had that experience before. We never had this candle didn't clear the liquidity beforehand, this one. So we're having a very different experience to what we had last year. And we've also, in the process of breaking this horizontal line, we've also broken this higher time frame trend line, this one here. You know, so we've actually in the last few weeks we've managed to break two significant lines. Now the horizontal lines are always more important and more powerful and more significant than any kind of downward trend line, always. So even though I don't think this was a bad thing, I think what's happened now is even more significant. It's a much more significant price action to see this horizontal line break. And on the KuCoin chart, if you were to do a fib retracement from the KuCoin all-time high, not the all-time high, the KuCoin all-time high, to the all-time low, yeah, the fib levels on the KuCoin chart, just the KuCoin chart, you'll see that the 236 corresponds perfectly to this horizontal SR flip. So not only have we actually broken higher than above a support line, a resistance line, and therefore flipping it into support, this is also a significant Fibonacci level as well. So that's kind of why this line is so important. And we haven't been able to get above this line since basically exactly 1 year ago. Yeah. And I think this is quite significant in terms of the price action. I think this is a very important achievement for the price. And now what I want to see, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at this on the other exchanges as well, just to see if there's any synergy between what the exchanges are revealing. So if I was to do the same Fibonacci pull on MEX, see the MEX has the correct all-time high, and so naturally there's a little bit of divergence, because you see on MEX you haven't come above the 236 yet. We're into the 236. You see that? And this is correct in terms of the higher time frame fib levels, simply because you are taking it from the correct all-time high. But when it comes to an actual SR flip, you'll notice that the SR flip is probably a little bit lower. If you look at these lows here, that's probably where the SR flip is. It's slightly lower than the actual 236 on the MEX exchange. So on MEX, even though we're above this SR flip, and we haven't been above it since, again, the same period of time, which was February, and then before then we were on a downtrend heading down into it, and that was October 22. We are at the moment still, we're always into resistance. We're still into some form of resistance. We are still into resistance. So I don't know if I'm going to expect the price to just go up like that. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's healthy for the price to just go up like that. I'm not in the mind of the price pumping, because I don't want the price to dump. I'm not into that kind of price action. I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to see the price to do that. I like the way the price has gone up in the last few weeks, because I'm seeing healthy accumulation. And what I want to see with the price is I want to see the price at the lower levels to be consumed, so that there's no more TRVL available at those lower prices anymore. So naturally now, when you're thinking of TRVL, it's trading at 5 cents. I think if suddenly tomorrow you woke up and you saw the price was at 3.3 cents, you'd be like, damn, this is cheap. And you'd buy it up. And then you see there's a psychological acceptance is very important when it comes to the markets. And right now, if you were to offer someone TRVL at 1.9 cents, the all-time low, they would take it, they would buy it as much as possible, simply because of the amount of time that it's taken to get to 5 cents. It's taken literally maybe 4 or 5 months just to get to 5 cents. So psychologically, we're getting accepted into the higher levels of price because of the time it's taken and the volume to get to this higher price. And naturally, if the price suddenly went down, you'd get people buy it up really easily, really quickly. Yeah, it wouldn't get accepted into the lower prices anymore because of the way the prices move. If you suddenly get a price shooting up like that, you might get the same behavior, but in reverse, where you're not going to get acceptance in the higher levels because the price hasn't been in those higher levels for a significant period of time. And naturally, people would just sell into that. And so I think the way the price is moving is really healthy. And I like that we've broken this level. Let me have a look at that on Gate. So if you do follow my streams, you'll know that I'm always looking at all the exchanges. I'm not just looking at one exchange. I don't have a favorite. I like to look at the price action on all of them. And I like to see, because people use different exchanges, you know, and it's just the way it is. And it's important to just have a look. And also what I've noticed is that different exchanges have their own kind of nuances. And so it's good to kind of see what these are. So on Gate, the Gate high is much higher, and so therefore the fib levels are slightly different again, and the 236 is much higher. But you know, you can see some like things, like even though the these fib levels aren't correct because they only refer to gate. You can see that the 382 on gate corresponded perfectly with that pivot high there, you know. So even though the fib levels are different, there are some nuances. Look at this. This came right into the golden pocket of the gate chart. So there are some nuances where you can't just ignore it just because it's not correct, because it isn't correct, because actually the fib would be from 1.56. That would be correct, something like that. That's correct. And that's basically what it looks like on MEX. And so we are actually still, technically, we are still into the 236, but it doesn't mean that we haven't broken this higher time frame SR flip. And it's not an exact line, but there is a line there. And you can see it's the same on all the exchanges. You have support, you have resistance, you have support, you have resistance, and then you have resistance. And so what I want to see now with the price, I don't want the price to go up right now. I actually want to see a nice back test on this line. I want to see a very definite back test on this SR flip. And that's going to give people the confidence and the confirmation that they need to accumulate at these levels, at these prices. And that's what I think people want. They want to see SR flips, which are back tested, which will give them the confidence to accumulate. So if we get a nice weekly back test here, so this is Bybit, I'm looking at the Bybit chart. If we get a back test, and the line is about 4.7 cents. We get like a back test, a consolidation here, and it can be 1 week. You could get 1 week candle, you can get 2 weeks candles, you can get a few week candles. Yeah, I think at least 1 week, but probably 2 would be better. Probably 2 would be better with decreasing volume. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it would be better to have like a candle here and then another candle. I don't know how the candles would be. Maybe you would have like like a hammer, and then maybe you would have like another doji or something, or a hammer, without making a lower low, without dropping underneath this line. That would be probably with a decreasing volume, like really drop off in volume. I think that would be the best price action. Just to back test this key horizontal level, just to get acceptance into these higher prices. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for acceptance above 4.7 cents. And part of that acceptance is going to be the time spent at these prices. And also part of that acceptance is also going to be the volume put at these prices. There's two types of acceptance that I'm imagining, and I think time, and they're both important. It's not just one or the other. I think you're looking for time and you're looking for volume, and that's going to give people the confidence to accumulate at these levels. Yeah. When I look at the Bitcoin chart, let me just delete these lines. We had a nice bullish candle, but it's slightly different. The Bitcoin chart is slightly different to the USDT charts. It's still bullish, so we've clearly holding support on the point of control. Clearly, you can clearly see that the point of control, which is the highest volume node of this range, is acting as support. You can see how the price has reacted off it. In the past, it's acted as resistance, support, support. So now we're just holding it as resistance. The price has moved away from the point of control. And we just have to see how the price is going to consolidate. On Bitcoin is slightly different from USD. And if I was to do a higher time frame fib, you can see that the Bitcoin chart is showing the same information as the KuCoin USD chart, in that we have broken this higher time frame 236 Fibonacci level on this chart. Now, maybe that's got something to do with the fact that this Dtravel, this TRVL Bitcoin chart is KuCoin as well. And so they were probably both launched at the same time. There might be some kind of similarity between these charts because the charts are both on KuCoin and they were both launched at the same time. So naturally there's some kind of mimicking in behavior, but still it'll be good to see that this 236 holds, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to see on the Bitcoin chart. So actually, when you look before the previous price action, you see the price came underneath here, held it as resistance, came up for 1 week, it held it as support here, and then it just fell under, and then it was resistance again. So this was kind of like failed in the lows, failed in the highs, and then it just got acceptance back in the lows. I don't want to see that kind of behavior. What I want to see for continuation is holding above this level for continuation. That's what I want to see. I want to see this level now acting as a nice platform for continuation to go up. And that's just going to take a little bit of time, a little bit of volume to be put at these levels. And we just have to wait and see what happens. And then what you're looking for basically is you're looking for the price to accumulate at these levels and then to move to head to the next level. And so you're always looking for the price to move from level to level. It's always what you're looking for. If I look at the TRVL against ETH chart, this is on Uniswap. So this chart goes back to November 21 when the token launched. Some really important things. I can see that this low here has held as support. It was resistance. It was resistance. And then last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we came above it. Then we held above it. And then last week we pushed from it. So I can see now that this horizontal line is support. So we have actually flipped a horizontal line from support, from resistance into support on the ETH chart. And that's a 3-month wick low. So if I go to the 3-month candles, the line that I have is this wick here. And you can see on the 3-month chart that that was a very significant line. And so what's literally happened now is that the price is flipped this line into support. It's very clear to see on the weekly chart that wick low is now acting as support here. So this is a kind of, I mean, it's not a new development, but this is a very strong indication of strength because the price has been consolidating in the lows for a long period of time. And now the price has managed to reclaim a significant level, a significant resistance level, and the price has managed to confirm that this level is now support. And it's done that 2 weeks in a row. So I think that's very important. And that's only, in terms of ETH, that's only 20% lower. So in in altcoin terms, that's not much. 20% lower is not much in altcoin terms. I think that's quite a significant development. And then also when you're looking at, if I do a full fib, slightly different. You've got the 236 is much higher. And so here I can also see easily that the 236 is another SR flip line to consider. That's slightly higher up. So all these charts are saying slightly different things, but ultimately they say the same thing. So you can clearly see that that is some sort of key line. Get rid of that now. And that you can see in the past that there was support, you lost it, it became resistance. This kind of went through it, but when it came back, it held it as resistance, and we've held it as resistance here as well. So you can see that this is a very important horizontal level. This is higher up. So we have to see how the price behaves when it comes into this level. But the fact that we've pierced the level one time here already, that's a good sign. And with these levels, you have to pierce them many times before, like you test these levels a few more times and eventually they break. That's how it works, because you're taking liquidity from these levels, and the next time there's less liquidity, and the next time there's no liquidity, and then the price just easily slips through those levels. So we have to see how this behaves, and you had that same kind of behavior here on the way down. You take liquidity, you test it again the third time, and then nothing. Yeah, it's kind of how it works. So you kind of want that same kind of experience in reverse. And with the ETH chart, there is some kind of trend line here. So potentially there is something else going on here. If we get enough strength to break that line, the horizontal and a trend line, and then can like back test, then we are really pumping, because you're clearing these resistance, this higher time frame resistance levels, and if you back test them into support, then that's a confirmation of strength. So I think for most people, if you're charting, the charts to pay attention to right now are going to be the KuCoin USD chart and the KuCoin Bitcoin chart, simply because we want this level to flip into support. So we've broken it, and now we're looking for some kind of confirmation of support. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for support now. Now, it depends on the strength of the price, because even though some people might be expecting it to come down, the price can always find support higher up. It doesn't have to come down to find support. It all depends on the bullish sentiment. So right now I can see the price is consolidating above this wick here. That could be, the price could just find support slightly higher up. It's possible. It doesn't have to come all the way down. But that is the line in the sand that I'm expecting that line to hold if the price comes down. But there's no reason why the price has to come down. The price could find support higher up. Yeah. It doesn't have to come all the way down. It doesn't always do that. We have to see how far the price comes down to find support. And ultimately, when the price does come back down to find support, it's just about buying and selling. It's just about sentiment. It's about demand and supply. Yeah. So right now, people are looking at this chart. Anyone who has any knowledge of technical analysis, they will look at this. They will see a very clear horizontal line that's been broken, and that will actually pique people's interest now, because they'll be looking to accumulate. And some people might not wait. Some people might not wait for lower prices because the distance is not far. It's only 10% lower. You can scale into that. You can scale into that. It's in the scale of things. When you're comparing a 10% down to the potential to this KuCoin high of 1,404% up, and this is the KuCoin high. If you go to the all-time high, you're going 10% down to 3,000% up. You think to yourself, well, actually, I'm just going to buy now. Like, it doesn't really make any difference. I'm just going to scale in now. And so healthy price action for me is the continued accumulation that we've been experiencing to date. I don't necessarily like the way the price pumps. I don't like those pumps. I like healthy accumulation. And right now we've had healthy accumulation here. We've had healthy accumulation here. Why not have healthy accumulation? Let's continue this healthy accumulation. Let's just keep on creating levels of volume as we go up. There's no reason, like, we don't really need to pump until we really get into the highs. Let's pump in the highs. When the whole market is going mental, and when retail are just buying market and they're pumping it up, let's pump in the highs. Let's not pump now. Right now, what we want to do is healthy accumulation level to level, and let's increase the price level to level. Let's not hope for pumping. That's my idea of what I would like to see, but obviously I can't control the price. It will do what it does. Is there anything else that I'm seeing here? Last week's volume was on par. It wasn't increasing significantly, but it was on par. It was on par with the previous kind of volumes of this rise. So obviously I would like to see increasing volume. I would like to start seeing the volume increasing, and I think that will come as more and more people start looking at this token, start looking at these charts, and start seeing what we're all seeing, which is that we've reversed the trends. We're now forming bullish market structure on the lower time frames, and all we really have to do now eventually is take out this high at 14-15 cents. We take out that high, that's a higher high. That's a higher high. And then we come down to higher low, and then we can pump. Then let's pump after we change the weekly time frame market structure to bullish. You know, I don't mind that. But to get there, let's see. Let's just keep on accumulating. And if people want to trade this at these levels, I haven't actually sold in yesterday's pump. I haven't sold. I'm not selling at 5 cents. I think 5 cents is cheap. Why would I sell? But if you do want to trade, then what I would suggest is you've got your line in the sand now. So what you can do is you can just trade the volume. You know, do a volume pool. You can see now the point of control is at the SR flip. So you could just trade the volume and see how that goes. And that's about, yeah, I mean, it's about 5, 6, 7, 8%. If people want to trade that, that's very doable. If you look at the volume in the past, so we are back in this higher range. And so the range that I'm looking at now is probably from here to here. Yeah, so we've come into the, if you look, if you see how these lines correspond in the past, we're into the previous range here. We're finding resistance on the value area low of this previous range. Yeah, that's quite normal behavior. And this range, this was quite a long range. This was like a 3-4 month range, 3-month range. And it was quite a tight range as well. I would say that most of the liquidity from this range has been released because of this push up and this push up. I don't think there's much trapped liquidity anymore in this range, but it was quite a significant long range, you know. So from 11th of June through to October, 11th of October, June, July, August, September, October, that's like 4 months. So there might still be some remnants of some trapped liquidity with people who are still in positions who have been negative for such a period of time and they're still looking to break him. It's possible, okay? So that we are going to require a little bit of volume now to get back into that value area low of the previous range, which is what this is. And you can see here that we found resistance, so we're finding it resistance as well. So as always, we're just flipping levels to level to level. That's what's happening now of the price. The price is behaving like that. So just trade the levels. Right now we're above a level, we're below a level, and you can just trade that. You can just trade the range. And so that would be the value area low. I would call it the previous range. Value area low. So the next challenge for us is to hold this level as support and to flip this level, which is resistance, into support. We consolidate, get up, back test, we're up. And then if we get up into that range, we are now then into this range, into this previous range. We're back into that range. That's a volume range. Right. So that's my TRVL update. Are there any questions? David? Got anything to add? Let me have a look at my live chat. No, I don't know if there's any reason for people to sell at these prices right now, because we've just had a major break of a level, and the support line is now just under 4.7 cents. So according to this, it's 4.659. We're basically on support now. Basically, we're on a massive support line, and I don't really see any reason why anyone would be selling at these prices. It's just continued accumulation. That's what I'm thinking. We just have to continue to accumulate. And what you're also starting to experience is, for these moving averages are starting to turn, really starting to push up. We're starting to get that kind of, so on every time frame, when you're looking at these moving averages, you can see they're starting to turn. We're starting to get that kind of, the building of the momentum that we all want to experience. Look at this daily moving average. See this? Daily 50. The price couldn't even get back to the daily 50, and it pushed up. And so on the 3-day chart, we've broken above the 3-day 200. We broke before, but we lost it here. And now we're back above it for the second time. So we're starting to turn these moving averages. And if you look at the weekly, like we held, that's what I said before, on the weekly time frame, we held the 50 here, and we've back tested the 50 for one more time for a nice push up. So we're starting to turn these moving averages, and in the future what you're going to get, the experience that we're going to get as time passes and as the price continues to move up, is you'll start getting the price accelerate. And as the moving averages start to make their way up, depending on how, you'll start to see more of an acceleration, and it will start to get really fast. And hopefully that's going to coincide. Eventually what you want it to do is you want it to coincide with Bitcoin getting into price discovery. Once you get that kind of behavior, that kind of situation with Bitcoin, then this is going to really start performing amazingly, because then you're going to get retail join the market. Retail really don't know what they're doing. They're going to buy at market, they're going to push the price up, and they're going to be trying to buy as much as possible because of the narrative of alt season. When Bitcoin is in price discovery, the narrative is going to be, this is the last chance, this is the best price, etc., etc. And I'm not going to discourage people from buying TRVL ever, because in my mind, when I'm looking at this token on the higher time frame, I'm seeing technical Fibonacci targets, which if I do an extension on the full range, my technical targets are $5.1, $9.6, $23.5, and in the most extreme circumstances of craziness and overextension, $125. Like, really, it's possible. You just don't know. You just can't predict the future. Just who knows what's going to happen in the future. In crypto, everything is possible, but technically, these are our targets. 5.16, 9.62, 23.5, and 125.4. Does it mean I'm not going to take profit at significant levels en route? But the idea is the same. You take profit to put it right back in at the lows. And we have our time frame is all the way through to September 25, you know, so we have quite a large amount of time to do this. It's probably somewhere here. Maybe look on the weekly chart. There, that's October. Somewhere there. So if I get rid of these moving averages, let me see. If I was to take these two lines, the less, not the less steep ones, but the steeper ones. So from here to here, that's more steep. So the current trajectory, which isn't steep at all, it's just normal. It's about 46 degrees. By the end of the bull market, you're trading just under $1. That's the current trajectory, which isn't even a steep trajectory. It's a very kind of ordinary price accumulation trajectory, right? There is a less steep one. The less steep one is this one down here to this low point here. But I think probably even this, I think this would probably be better at the moment. And then the thing is, as the price becomes more impulsive, it starts to get slightly steeper and steeper. It does. And so on these 2 points, if it's starting to get a little bit steeper, then potentially you could hit those targets, you know, like it is possible. It just depends on how in the future how the price impulses. if we accumulate and then impulse and then accumulate and then impulse and then accumulate, and then what happens is that becomes your bull market trend line, and it is possible to just keep on going up. It is possible all the way to the end. It's possible. It's very possible. We don't know how the price is going to react in the future. All right, that's my TRVL update. This is very exciting. Are people selling? Let me have a look. It's a little bit of take profit now. I can see this is a little bit of taking profit. Increased green volume there. So that's kind of like what you actually want to start seeing is a decrease in the sell volume and an increase in the green volume. We're getting a little bit of both right now. I think the best thing to do for most people is just draw this volume range. This is on max. So when you come back into that volume range, so you know it's only down 2%. It's not much. It's a very tight range right now. And if I was to do something else, let me do this one. So you can see the price has come into the 50%. We're above the 382. This is on the extension, the retracement from this pivot high down to this low here. So we're above the 382. We're underneath the 50%. A little bit of ranging. Let's make it to the next level. You know, that's what I want to see. All right, let's see what happens. And then obviously, if the price does drop underneath, people need to be aware of this. Like, is there any reason to... Oh, that's just... My mouse is broken. Don't know what to do. Oh my God. It's a sign. Oh, there it is. Shit. If the price comes down underneath this level, that's technically called a failed auction. Yeah. Technically, that's called a failed auction. I think it would be a great opportunity to accumulate at lower prices, but I don't like that price action. I think that would be very bearish for that to happen. We have to be aware of that. Now, that doesn't mean the price is going to go to zero. That actually, all that really means is people will have one more chance to accumulate at lower prices. But I'm not selling. I'll be looking to buy if that was to happen. It could happen. Yeah, it just depends on how the price behaves at this. And it's all about acceptance. Like we want acceptance in these higher prices. And we're going to get acceptance as if the price consolidates for a longer period of time. Yeah, so the longer the price consolidates here, the more psychological acceptance we're going to get at these prices, and the more people are going to accumulate for higher prices at these prices, especially because they'll see that we've flipped a higher level from resistance to support. But I mean, worst case scenario, if we do drop, that's called a failed auction. Now, what does that mean? We had that before, so I just want you to be aware of what we had before. We had that, we remember this pump, and then we formed this range. We had this range here, and remember what happened. The price came down, it went up, came down, and it dropped. And that was we were looking very bearish there. Remember that? We're back in this previous level. That was bearish price action. But then we had a rejection, a quick rejection. It came back up. So in my mind, what I'm thinking is if this does happen here, I would be hoping for a similar behavior, similar reaction. Yeah. I'd be looking to see if it, like, I'm not going to get bearish because we've seen how it's done that before, and the price rejects. And so in my mind, I think if we get that kind of behavior, I'll be looking to see if the price rejects from this lower range. Now I'm seeing this as a lower range. Yeah. And so in the first instance, I'll be looking for acceptance at these higher prices. That's what I'm looking for now. And so I'm looking for acceptance here. And if we don't get acceptance, if we get a rejection, a failed auction, I'll be looking for another failed auction to take the price back up. That's what I'll be looking for, because we've had that here before. So there's no reason why that history can't repeat itself. And I think what you're experiencing when the price goes down like this is bad behavior from Bitcoin, really. That's all it is. So sometimes Bitcoin can cause people to panic, sell. Yeah. Basically what you're getting is a reaction of people's behavior when it comes to Bitcoin, not to TRVL. But just be careful of if that was to happen. If Bitcoin was to behave badly, you get a little bit of a sell-off, which looks like we're losing that level again. I think there's a lot of people looking to buy. Now that we've broken a level, there'll be a lot of people looking to buy at this lower price. And it's very likely, because of the liquidity and the low liquidity of this market at these prices, it's very possible that will just go straight back up. So just be aware of that. If you're thinking to yourself, Bitcoin is crashing, I need to sell, don't forget that we are literally in the lows of a higher time frame range, and the risk is to the upside. Yeah, the chance of this price going to the lows again are diminishing as time passes, and especially because of the interest and the increasing interest in TRVL and Dtravel. It's growing at a very fast rate, and more people are waiting on the sidelines to see if they can get into this, get involved, you know, because when you look at this price action, there's nothing bearish about it. There's nothing bearish about this price action right now. We're making higher lows. We're in bullish daily time frame market structure, and we're flipping resistance levels, higher time frame resistance levels, into support. This is all bullish. And also it's not pumpish either. It's not pump and dumpish. It's accumulative. So you're getting continuous accumulation. If I was to pull a volume profile on this price action, you'll see that the volume is in the lows of this whole range. One day in the future, we will break these higher time frame prices, these higher prices, sorry, and then we'll probably head to the moon, probably one day in the future, probably will. And that will be a great day. All right, so that's my TRVL update. I don't really have anything more to say except don't sell, buy. Buy, keep on buying. I think it's actually better to be in TRVL than in ETH at the moment. So just bear that in mind as well. Like, I don't want to tell people what to do, but when I'm looking at the TRVL against ETH chart, this is it. if I was to do a higher time frame volume pool, look, most of the volumes at the lows, and we've basically come above a very significant higher time frame pivot. We've come above that level now, which is now that level is now acting as support. Yeah. So in terms of TRVL versus ETH, this is not a crazy downtrend. This is more like a sideways accumulation, like it's not really down. Like it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't look like a crazy sell-off. So eventually we're going to break this kind of down pattern, this kind of wedgy pattern. And then TRVL is going to really pump against ETH one day. Probably when ETH is pumping too. So ETH will pump and then TRVL will really pump one day, probably. That's what I'm seeing. I can't predict that, but right now what I'm seeing in terms of price action is that TRVL is holding its own against ETH right now. And then when you're looking at BTC, I'm kind of seeing the same thing too. Like, it's not like a crazy downtrend, you know. It's not like, I'm not like looking at this and freaking out and going, oh my god, we're losing value. We're in the volume, we're in the range, we're in the volume range, we're above the point of control. We haven't really impulsed out of this yet. I am expecting some kind of 5-wave Elliott wave against BTC as well, not just against USDT. And in my mind, the most bullish scenario would be some kind of inverse head and shoulders for a massive breakout against Bitcoin. And so I'm imagining that, and let's see if that plays out. Any questions?